we decided to stay in Shamrock, Texas. You may also know that it was the location for Gymkhana TEN, the Texas part. So we're gonna do a bit of Gymkhana tourism. Once Ken gets something done and he gets it done right, he'll overdrive a bit. Overdrove this big spin out onto Main Street. There was a lot of waiting here. I don't even remember why now.
I remember what it was. Ken hit that.
He didn't he?
Oh yeah.
Well, that was not the plan. Editors will always use that. Good morning. 5 days ago, we set out in my now U-joint converted 4x4 Econoline to drive across the country, and unfortunately, we thought we'd be home by now. But we had a little issue along the way, got up and running yesterday. It's been great. So last night, we decided to stay in Shamrock, Texas. You might know that it is on famous Route 66. It is also a large inspiration for Radiator Springs, the fictional town in Pixar's Cars. And you may also know that it was the location for one of my favorite films we've ever done, which is Gymkhana TEN, the Texas part, where we introduced the Hoonitruck. And yeah, so we're gonna do a bit of Gymkhana tourism. You might have caught the one we did previously at San Francisco. This one was sort of unplanned. Timing worked out. We're gonna go visit a bunch of our favorite moments here. Really enjoyed filming here. It was kind of a really rad spot to work in. And we're gonna go back, check out some of the best moments, talk through them, and give you a little behind the scenes. Yeah, and the first one is like, why did we pick Shamrock? It being a small town was the reason. We were used to doing these massive city takeovers. Los Angeles, Dubai, San Francisco, Detroit, even in Gym 10, but we wanted to do a small town vibe and kind of work with the challenges. There was only really 2 main streets here. There's Main Street, Route 66, and a bunch of side streets. And that meant we had to create a lot of things, and we had to build things like the spiral and everything else. Yeah, you take over the Bay Bridge, and that's obviously like a big underdoing. We wanted to be able to make that same cool thing on like every town's main street. So that was the goal for this film, and I think we accomplished it. I don't know, Will, what are your thoughts? Because you were here, you worked on this too.
Yeah. I think it definitely worked, and I thought it was a fitting place for a classic style truck, right? I think like you said in the other ones, you're kind of juxtaposing the car with access and scale, places where you're like, how did you film there? But here it's a complete opposite. I think kind of stripping it back down to what the core of it is did kind of help, and I think in the Gym 10 setting, you're really just trying to make things as diverse as much as possible. So I think in that sense, it was a really unique place.
There's 5 films in Gym 10. What was your favorite of the Gym 10?
This one.
This was your favorite?
Yeah, this one or Detroit, just because I think Detroit was such a long time coming, and I think the texture of Mexico is really cool, but yeah, it'd probably be those 3.
So, all right, so that's it. We're gonna go and check out our favorite spots, a little Gymkhana tourism here in Shamrock. And speaking of favorites, my favorite photo that was ever taken in Canada was taken right here in this booth. Yeah. Another hindsight list of the things I should have ordered for this trip. Actually, this is me getting ahead. This is me learning from my mistakes and ordering something I'm going to need pretty quickly, because as I've said multiple times, one of the reasons I built an Econoline instead of building a Sprinter was because I wanted to be able to tow with this thing. One of the things that you kind of need for towing are tow mirrors. That's something my vehicle didn't come with. Good thing is, I can go to eBay Motors and find out right here. Tow mirrors. They come in both powered and manual setup. Let's order a set of those. Hey, I think these kind of look cool. And it's nice to have those extra 4 or 5 inches out to the side so you can see the trailer behind you. Voila. Check out eBay Motors for your next road trip and get those things you need. Make your trip proper road trip. Or let everything break down and at least you get good stories. All right, so we are here at the site of 2nd and North Madden, and this is actually, I would say, the best figure 8, definitely from a technical and even a visual perspective we've ever done in a Gymkhana film. setup here was there was this old building, which I think when we had it, there was actually a sign on the side that said Rusty's Parts. The art department was supposed to spell it like Rusty's from Cars. It got lost in translation because that was supposed to be my nod to Cars the movie, because Radiator Springs was based on Shamrock here. Came in, big slide here, lots of proximity around that front post. And like what made this figure eight super cool was that this was not just immovable objects. Like, you know, you go around cones or you go around a hot dog stand. Like if you hit it, it moves out of the way. It was also like historic objects. So if you hit them, it's like you got to explain to somebody. So it was a slide through here, which was really difficult because you have like all these different textures. So like Ken came down, slid this, and then you go onto the brick, which changes your traction element, and then across this really rough piece of concrete here, and then into this like super slick area of this like, no matter how many times we broomed it, forever dusty concrete in that little area. And I think there was only like 3 feet behind the truck, so it didn't really give him much room as he was coming through in the tight spot. It actually opens the way that it's cut, so the side one is smaller, so he gave him a little bit of area to come out. From there, we looped back around historic site, the Magnolia gas station here. The thing I really liked about this is when we first looked at it, I wanted to see if we could go through the middle, but the angle just didn't really work. When it came around, instead of coming up concrete, it went through grass, and it just gave this nice little poof, like puff of dirt as it came out. But we stood here for a really long time trying to put this all together and kind of figure out all these different pieces. So yeah, this is still like a top list for me of things we've ever done in any of the Gymkhana films. I mean, what do you remember from this? You were here?
So on Gymkhana 10, I was doing drone. You and I definitely did like a creative scout. We checked out Shamrock. You were really sold on the Route 66 vision and the Cars reference and the space here. And to me, it felt too empty. And then we were gonna have to create everything, but this one ended up working out really well. And if you look at the distance between these, it's really long. It's hard to connect these two things in an all-wheel drive car. In any car, to be honest. It was really hard for us to try to cover the whole thing with a drone because it is actually so wide right here. We were flying from like 1 block over just to try to hold the whole sequence right here without making it look ridiculous, because as soon as you start getting really high, you really start to see how small the town is and like all the lots and stuff, and it changes the shape of everything.
Like when it was all done, did you feel like it worked out?
I think rewatching it now, like I appreciate all the things, because if you look at some of those shots, it's like just got these big picturesque Texas skies with big clouds, and you know, all-wheel drive people don't call it a manji, but like in drifting it's a manji. When he's like just going side to side, maybe 5 lanes wide down Route 66, it's pretty impressive. And you brought up a point that was like everything about this one in Texas feels about like threading the needle. I think we just kind of found those obstacles and some curb hops and like the dirt hit right there. And there's some like rough driving, and it's the first time you see the truck too. So
yeah. Well, it's actually interesting because one of the things I really kind of went for here was I knew that the streets are wide. I knew that it wasn't going to give us the same feeling as some of the city stuff we did. Okay, well then all of the moments had to feel really tight. So even though you had this like big open road, like when he actually came down to do the trick stuff, it was going to be like super tight, kind of breaks that all up. So there was a lot of waiting here. I don't even remember why now.
I remember what it was.
What?
Ken hit that.
He did, didn't he?
Oh yeah.
I forgot
There's
about
a body
that.
panel, yeah. I mean, it made those marks may even be from it.
On one of the takes, one of the early takes, he hit this with the fender and the bumper, and the guys had to put it back together. Oh yeah, forgot about that. Like when I showed this to Ken, I was like, oh yeah, you just got to come around here to then this relatively really smooth and clean concrete, and then back out. He was like, really? He couldn't have found something easier? I didn't want to give the truck a free pass on the first one. We wanted to like actually like kind of push it.
Yeah, this is rough. I remember he stalled out kind of in there a couple times, like not sure if he was going to hit something, and it was not a one take. Whereas I think if you watch this,
I think he did this on the first try, if I remember correctly. Because like he got so close to it that it was like, yeah, well, is it going to get much better? That off of this here. And that's like just the back of the truck. The wing had the extension on it. I love this town because if you haven't figured out, I just love like this era, 20s to like 60s kind of, when cars were still really exciting to everybody before we turned them into appliances. realize how harsh that bump is right there. It's what you've been waiting for, snack break. This one brought to you again by Black Rhino. Honestly, if we didn't have Black Rhinos on this van, we'd be kind of in trouble because we wouldn't have wheels. That's right. They make a bunch of great wheels though, whether it is for 8-lug applications like this van, but they also make stuff for UTVs. And if you have like a much smaller vehicle that's more sensible, like a Tacoma, 4Runner, Ranger, something along those lines. And they have a bunch of different styles, whether you like sort of the military style of the Arsenal that's on this, or you like something a little less tactical, but check them out while we check these out. The wavy Funyuns. Before I even bite into this, I'm gonna tell you I'm kind of excited. First of all, onion. I don't actually like real onions. I don't like cutting them. It makes me cry. But they are one of my favorite artificial flavors. Onion flavored chips is everything. And I always liked Funyuns, but I'll be honest, I don't know if I really like the texture of the Funyun. If we're gonna get into it, really the best chip of all time, onion and garlic, Wise potato chips. That, quarter water, ready to go. Maybe a Lucy. All right, cracking them open. Let's see. Actually, the smell kind of reminds me of Wise chips. Ooh, I think they fixed the Funyun. This is pretty good. Like the waviness is classic Lay's, right? Okay, this is better than it should be. You can tell because I don't really want to talk anymore. Just want to ram like as many. Oh, have one.
Yeah.
They remind me of the Wise chips. You're an East Coaster. You remember those Wise chips? They were a good time. 9.1 out of 10. I thought this was gonna be another trash combo collab, but yeah, that works really well. Anyway, go get yourself some Lay's. Go get yourself some Black Rhinos. Do what you gotta do.
Yo, did you say get yourself a quarter water, a quarter bag of Wise potato chips, and a Lucy? Who was selling you loose cigarettes in the 90s?
Everyone. Okay, so this is one of the roads off of, I guess, what would have been original Main Street here. The main reason we wanted to film here was because all of like the classic Western style old brick building, and then like everything just hand painted on it, Justice of the Peace, City Hall Annex, which by the way, like these are all still functioning buildings. We just visually wanted to do something here. Unfortunately, there really wasn't anything cool to do, so we had to bring a ton of stuff in. We ended up going to one of the local scrap yards, which by the way, I have to say, wow, they got some good stuff there.
Trash. Yeah, I love trash.
Because I got to just like walk through this whole scrapyard and just like pick all these crazy obstacles. We just kept finding all these things like, okay, how are we gonna build an obstacle course for Ken? Just doing a big slide wasn't enough. I wanted the moment to sit here, right? Like I wanted you to feel the space, so it couldn't just be like a quick slide through. We had a good quick slide out at the back, which actually is one of the best shots from here. It was the shot that Hurt got. And that's just because Hurt was willing to put himself in the place of danger, and Ken was always willing to almost hit Hurt. That was they had a special bond like that. And then also we brought in Aaron Kaufman, played the sheriff, and sit in the corner over there. Yeah, I don't know if I like love the actual trick. Like it was a nice proximity donut. Right, that was the idea. We were trying to think of like how do we do all of the stuff we've done before, K-rail or road cones or things, but make everything feel like we got it from town, because we did. Like all of the props that were here, we found in and around town, scrap yards, people's backyards, people's car cane hoards and farms. That was a good challenge to be able to just go and be able to pick this and put this together. And I really loved what we did here. We set up in the middle, came in, donuts around, and in true like Gymkhana fashion, the greatest moment of this whole sequence was the exit. You have so much heat in the tires at that point that like everything is going to create a ton of smoke, but it's also going to give you like a certain amount of control and grip because now the tires are well warmed up. Also, once Ken gets something done and he gets it done right, and then he's like kind of excited about it, he'll overdrive a bit. So he like overdrove this big spin out onto Main Street. Just this great, really rad shot. But yeah. Crazy how quiet it is here now though. So while we were here, Matt actually recognized. Would you recognize my voice, or did you see?
You're the tall.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
tallness. It was like, hey, what's up? So we worked together on the film, so we were just catching up. So it's cool to come back. So you worked on set with us, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah, for sure. When was that? Was that 5 or 6 years?
2018, right?
I think it's 2018.
Yeah, it's 2018. So here's a question for you. What was your favorite moment in the film?
My favorite was the U-drop.
U-drop.
And then coming back up 83.
It was definitely one of the most nerve-wracking for us because it's such a like historic spot and it was so tight that we were like, just don't hit anything. Yeah, we were just looking at the spot over on Magnolia, and I completely forgot that we had actually tapped the truck into the wall over there, and that was a lucky one. That all stayed together.
Yeah, I forgot about that too.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, you bet.
Appreciate the hospitality as always.
Yeah, of course.
This right here, Conoco Tower, you drop in, which was really kind of made famous by the Cars movie, right? We really wanted to start the film with something that was obviously iconic Route 66 and literally said Route 66. So the concept was proximity slide, and we put the back of the truck over here. It was also something different because we never had a long overhang with the cars. The truck gave us something new to be able to kind of do differently. Slide up off of 66, through here, back out into the intersection, slide across here, and just run it right across the sign. And that one worked out perfect. But the most difficult thing is what we did over by the tower. Parked the Church Van here for size comparison. As you can see, it's not really big. Ken actually came through here and slid, so pitched it sideways and spun it around this to come out that way. This was one of those ones we were really worried about because this is a historic site. It's really important to not only the people of Shamrock, but to car culture, and just had to be perfect. I don't remember how many takes we did on this, but I think it was one of those like maybe 1, 2, maybe 3 and out. So it was just about like nailing it and getting it done. And it wasn't that this location had the best obstacle. This was so iconic, and this is what we used to start, you know, Texas. So you like understood where we were. And you know, if you grew up watching Lightning McQueen, sort of what this area was. And oh yeah, so we went through here. This was actually the first sequence we did, and it's not normal that the first thing that happens in the film is the first thing we filmed. Sometimes we film stuff out of order. This was actually the first thing we did. It had a lot to do with just how the timing was. It's always the hardest thing to do, and this was like harder than it needed to be. We were still figuring out the vehicle. Ken didn't have a lot of practice at that point. It just was a lot to learn, and the first place for Ken to learn it was probably the most sort of sentimental location to not only this town, but you know, America as a country. No pressure.
I kind of like the off tone.
The ultimate color.
Well, it's like the good retro colorway.
All right, and last up for Gymkhana tourism, the spiral. So this isn't actually the location, but these are the cars that made up the spiral. A bunch of Edsels over there. Model A was in the shot somewhere. This Hudson was there. These all belong to one guy who owns like 1,000 cars across Texas. So I would say like 60% of the cars that make up that final spiral, all of that was mostly plucked from here and other people's yards. The idea was we wanted to create this like drift spiral, right? It goes all the way into the center, and the ultimate goal was for Ken to not touch any of the cars, but get really close. I think he actually dragged his wing on one of the cars, and we had to pay for that because as you can see, these are all pristine cars here. It's crazy that most of them are still here. It also makes me realize that when you collect cars and you leave them out in yards, you don't actually ever do anything with them because it's been 5 years and it looks like none of them run.
Mind you of someone you know?
So anyway, that's it. that's the end of this episode, or at least the end of Gymkhana tourism. We still got 1,170 miles to make it back to Los Angeles, so there'll still be more of us.
So that is Walter White's house in Breaking Bad.
We're just hitting all the sites pretty quickly. We're trying to get out real quick.
The Breaking Bad family? Everything else in here is my bad decisions.
Oh, so you bought this with your own money?
Yes, unfortunately.
You know it's a G60, right?
Yeah, I love G60s.